Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. Today, we are going back to the 1920s glitz and glamour of New York City to talk about one of the most trailblazing actresses of all time, Fredi Washington. Let us get started. Frederica Caroline Fredi Washington was born on December 23, 1903 in Savannah, Georgia, to postal worker Robert T. Washington and a dancer, Harriet Haiti Walker Ward, of both African American and European descent, which gave her her very fair complexion, hella good cheekbones, and dimples. I have dimples and it's really fun. Fredi was the second oldest of 5 children. Her life was unfortunately met with heartache early on when at age 11 her mother died, and as the oldest girl in the family, she had to help raise her younger siblings who were Isabel, Rosebud, and Robert with the help of her grandmother. A little after her mother died, Fredi and Isabel was sent to the St. Elizabeth's Convent School for Colored Girls in Cornwalls Heights near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her father eventually remarried, but unfortunately his second wife died while pregnant. He then married a third time, and in this marriage had 4 kids, making a total of 9 kids in the family. That's a full house. It is important to mention that at the time when Fredi was born, it was during the height of the Jim Crow laws. For those of you who don't know, and it's an unfortunate amount, Jim Crow laws were state and local laws that enforced racial segregation in the southern US. Black and colored people were not allowed to drink out of the same drinking fountain, use the same bathrooms, hospitals, parks, beaches, benches, schools, railroads, and even bus stations. Waiting rooms, even laundromats were segregated. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, with the amount of segregation and overall poor economic state for the African Americans in the South, between 1910 and 1970, 6 million African Americans and other ethnic groups began to migrate to the Northeast, Midwest, and West, called the Great Migration or the Black Migration. Fredi's family moved during this time to Harlem, New York, and she graduated from Julia Richmond High School in New York City. When Fredi was 16, she moved to New York City to begin a career in entertainment. She started out as a dancer and made her stage debut in 1922, touring with the musical Shuffle Along, which also starred Josephine Baker. And we all know who Josephine Baker is. Good Lord, we know who Josephine Baker is. I would have loved to have met Josephine Baker. Who would later become her good friend and mentor, which I would sign up for that. What liver do you need, Josephine? What liver do you need to be my best friend? What liver? Though she had a good early start, she still found a lack of opportunities for being a Black actress. So she toured Europe with her dance partner, Al Moret. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. She returned to America and was cast in her debut film, Black and Tan, a musical drama film featuring Duke Ellington and his orchestra in 1929. Duke Ellington was a jazz pianist, composer, songwriter, and leader of his jazz orchestra. She continued to tour with the group and appear on stage with Duke and his band for the next couple years, and established herself as a respected dramatic actress, which was made very clear in her role in Black and Tan, where she played a Cotton Club girl who's dying.
Duke, play me the Black and Tan fantasy.
Yeesh. I should mention that even though Duke was a married man, that did not stop him from having a short affair with Fredi. Yeah. Something you need to know is that Fredi always called herself Black. Now, as you can see by her photos, she was a very fair-skinned, thin, green-eyed black woman. She was fair-skinned enough that she could pass as white in the South, and during the early times of being with Duke and his band, she took advantage of her fair complexion to slip into white-only ice cream parlors and buy ice cream for herself and the whole band. But she refused to use it to gain social and economic standing. In fact, during the harshest times of segregation and unbelievable bias against African Americans, she embraced her heritage with her whole heart and body and soul. While other ethnic actresses like Marlee Oberon, who was Anglo-Indian, and Rita Hayworth, who was Spanish-American, tried to hide their features by bleaching their skin to adhere to Hollywood's golden age standards, Fredi refused to hide behind her lighter skin. Here's something fascinating that I found while doing this research. There is something called racial passing, which is an actual term referring to when a person is either accepted or is perceived passes as a member of a different racial group. Examples of this would be an Edith Hahn Beer, a Jewish woman who passed herself as an Aryan during Hitler-occupied Germany, John Roland Reed, an African-American musician who passed himself off as an Indian, and of course, I cannot pass up mentioning the controversial civil rights activist Rachel Dolezal, who tried to pass herself off as an African American. Yeah, we love her. Historian Robert Fikes Jr. writes the practice of racial passing as was, quote, seen by many African Americans as a way of outwitting the system of oppression and making laughable fools of those who countenanced notions of white racial purity and supremacy. Basically. Of course, the person who passes as another race not only alienates themselves from their actual heritage, but ran the risk of losing whatever privilege they gained and had the threat of being shunned by people of their race. Yeah, we love her. Fredi, instead of turning on her race, reveled in it. She fully immersed herself in the growing of the Harlem Renaissance, which was a period of a renewed spirit of self-determination, pride, new social consciousness, and commitment to political activism among African Americans across the country, which would be a foundation for the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. Fredi's neighborhood of Harlem, New York became a cultural oasis and a hotbed of African American artistic expression and production. At this time, Black actors and actresses had very few opportunities in Hollywood, and the majority of them could be seen only in race films, which were films that were advertised and made solely to just Black audiences. And those who did get into more white audience movies were mainly casted as subservient or stereotypical goals. Think of criminal, maid, servant, slave, you know, those lovely things. And I will remind everybody again, this is in the 1920s here, all right? But in the 1920s, Fredi burst through those barriers. After Black and Tan, she played a small role in the 1933 film The Emperor Jones. In that same year, she married the trombonist of Duke Ellington's band, Laurent Brown. Her next film role was in the 1934 musical short Cab Calloway's Heidi Ho, where she played Cab Calloway's love interest.
You sure everything's all right, honey?
Oh, of course. My Pullman porter is way out in Chicago, about 1,000 miles away.
Later that year, she would star in her best-known role in the film Imitation of Life, that ironically explored the practice of passing, as Fredi's character, Piola, a young, light-skinned Black woman who was the daughter of the Black housekeeper played by Louis Beavers. In the film, Piola wants to pass as white to have more opportunities in a segregated society, and Fredi, having the clear European complexion, was perfect for the role.
I want to go away. Go away? Go where, Viola? By that I mean, I want to go away. And you mustn't see me, or own me, or claim me, or anything. even if you pass me on the street, you'll have to pass me by.
Oh, no, Peola.
Oh, I know it's terrible of me, Miss B. But you don't know what it is to look white and be black. You don't know. I can't go on this way any longer. I can't give up my baby. I bore you. I nursed you. I love you. I love you more than you can guess. You can't ask your mammy to do this.
What made Imitation of Life such a landmark movie was the relationship between Peola and her white friend, who was played by Claudette Colbert. The movie dealt directly with interracial identity, passing, and similarities and differences between black and white women, which had never been deeply explored in mainstream Hollywood. The movie basically treated the stories of the African American and Caucasian characters as equally important. Again, this had never been done before. I've seen this movie. It's extraordinary. This made the movie a nominee for Best Picture in the 1935 Academy Awards. In 2005, the film was inducted into the United States National Film Registry, which collects film for preservation. Each film is selected for its historical, cultural, and aesthetic contributions. And in 2007, Time magazine named it as one of the 25 most important films on race. Bite the $4 or $5 to rent it on whatever platform you find it on and just watch it. Trust me, it's amazing. It's amazing. In 1934, Fredi said the role was not who she really was off screen, as most actors and actresses do, saying, but quote, "If I made Peola seem really enough to merit such statements, I consider such statements compliments and makes me feel I've done my job fairly well." She did her job fairly well is an understatement. But unfortunately, Fredi was so identified and enmeshed with the role of Peola that she found it difficult to get other roles, and since white Hollywood violently refused to cast black women in romantic roles, which was a big role for women in 1920s, 1930s Hollywood, Fredi couldn't get any leading roles. Plus, if you remember, she was so fair-skinned that many saw her as white, so in turn, she couldn't get more stereotypical black roles as mates. That's a pickle and a half, man. A critic explained that Fredi was, quote, too beautiful and not dark enough to play maids, but rather too light to act in all black movies. Wow. And this all led to her last movie appearance in the 1937 film 1 Mile from Heaven, a role she played as a biracial woman claiming to be the mother of a white baby. I don't know what that means. Her role in 1 Mile from Heaven was just 3 years after her main role in Imitation of Life. But this short acting career did not take the ambitious winds out of her sails. Her efforts as a civil rights activist began in 1937 when she helped found what would become the Negro Actors Guild of America, that created better opportunities and advocated for less stereotypical roles and better working conditions for black actors and actresses. She lobbied for better lodging for black performers as her work with Joint Actors Equality Theater League Committee. She also continued to be involved in theater. She later became a theater drama critic, writing reviews for an African American newspaper, as well as served as a casting consultant for many theater productions and films that considered race. Notably, the stage productions of Porgy and Bess in 1935 and Carmen Jones in 1943. She also became a drama editor for a New York weekly newspaper called The People's Voice, writing over 200 articles between 1943 and 1948. She also continued to have Broadway theater roles. She appeared in the 1938 Broadway show Mamba's Daughter, the 1946 show Listeria, and the 1948 production A Long Way Home. She also played a dramatic role in the 1943 radio show Heroines in Bronze. Side note, that's a badass name! Which was a radio tribute to black women by the National Urban League. Heroines in Bronze. I want that to be a movie. Maybe I'll do that. In her personal life, her marriage to Lawrence Brown dissolved and they divorced in 1951. But in 1952, she married Stanford dentist Hugh Anthony Bell. She leveled up. Once they were married, they moved to Greenwich, Connecticut. Following the marriage and the move, she retired from show business. They were married till his death in 1970, and in 1975, her contribution to cinema was awarded when she was inducted into the America's Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame. Fredi Washington Bell died on June 28, 1994 at 90 years old. Feet and a half. From pneumonia following a series of strokes at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Stamford, Connecticut. She told the Chicago Defender in 1945, quote, "Early in my career, it was suggested that I might get further by passing as French or something exotic. But to pass for economic or other advantages would have meant that I swallowed whole hog the idea of black inferiority." And with that mic drop, that was the story of Fredi Washington, one of the most trailblazing mixed African Americans in film cinematic history. I know it's a little bit shorter today, but unfortunately what I found in today's video was all that I could find on her. But if you guys know anything else about her, please leave them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And while you're down there and telling me more about Fredi Washington, leave a friendly comment. I will be back next week with another video, and until then, don't be well behaved. You just might make history. See you next time, guys.
Coming